The life and sad ending of Neil Peart. Neil Peart was born Neil Ellwood Peart on September 12, 1952, in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada to Glen and Betty Peart, and lived on the family's farm in Hagersville near Hamilton. The first of 4 children, his siblings were Danny, Judy, and Nancy. The family moved to St. Catharines when Peart was 2, and then to the Port Dalhousie area of the town in 1956. He attended Gracefield School, and later Lakeport Secondary School. He listened to pop music on his transistor radio. He took piano lessons, but seeing his penchant for drumming on various objects, his parents bought him a drum kit for his 14th birthday. He took lessons from Don George at the Peninsula Conservatory of Music. He debuted at the school's Christmas pageant in St. John's Anglican Church Hall in Port Dalhousie. He appeared with his first group, the Eternal Triangle, at Lakeport High School. The performance contained an original number titled, LSD Forever. He performed his first solo at the show. Peart got a job in Port Dalhousie, and worked on the bubble game and ball toss, but was terminated. He played in local bands such as Mumblin' Somethin', The Majority, and Junior Flood. At 18, Peart traveled to London, England. He played in several bands and occasionally received session work. He sold trinkets to tourists at the Great Frog on Carnaby Street to support himself. During his stay in London, he read novels of objectivist Ayn Rand, whose writings had a significant philosophical influence on him. Her novel, Anthem, influenced his Fly by Night and 2112. He returned to Canada disillusioned by his lack of progress in the music business. He worked for his father at Dalziel Equipment in St. Catharines. Thereafter, he joined the band, Hush, to play drums. Peart auditioned for the Toronto-based band Rush. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, who oversaw the audition, accepted Peart's style of drumming. He officially joined the band on July 29, 1974. On his first outing with the band, he opened for Uriah Heep and Manfred Mann in front of over 11,000 people at the Civic Arena, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on August 14, 1974. He became the band's main lyricist. They began to tour extensively. Their first recording in 1975, Fly by Night, was fairly successful, and won the Juno Award for a Most Promising New Act. Their Caress of Steel was a failure with much negative reception aimed at The Fountain of Lamneth. Peart then wrote 2112 on their breakthrough album of the same name in 1976. When touring Northern Europe, Rush recorded the 1977 album, A Farewell to Kings, in Rockfield Studios in Wales. The next year their follow-up album, Hemispheres, was also recorded there. In the 1980 album, Permanent Waves, Peart stopped using fantasy literature or ancient mythology in his writing. His lyrics began to revolve around social, emotional, and humanitarian issues, using metaphors and symbolic representation. The 1981 Moving Pictures portrayed his interest in mythological figures, which he placed in a modern reality-based context. The album contained their most popular song, Tom Sawyer, and Limelight, about popularity and its pressures. In the albums, Hold Your Fire, Presto, Roll the Bones, and Counterparts, from 1987 to 1993, Peart explored diverse lyrical motifs, and also addressed the topic of love and relationships. In 1992, Peart accepted an invitation to play at the Buddy Rich Memorial Scholarship Concert in New York City. He performed with the Buddy Rich Big Band. He decided to produce and play on 2 Buddy Rich tribute albums titled Burning for Buddy, a tribute to the music of Buddy Rich, in 1994, and again 3 years later. He returned from his self-imposed sabbatical, and recorded the 2002 album, Vapor Trails, wherein Peart spoke about his personal issues, and humanitarian topics, such as the 9/11 terrorist attacks as in Peaceable Kingdom. By 2005, he had written 3 books, namely, The Masked Rider, Cycling in West Africa, Ghost Rider, Travels on the Healing Road, and Traveling Music, playing back the soundtrack to My Life and Times. Peart toured the Americas and Europe on the Time Machine Tour with Rush. Following the tour, the band released their studio album, Clockwork Angels, on June 12, 2012. In 1996, Peart and his bandmates were made Officer of the Order of Canada. The trio were the first rock musicians to be bestowed the highest civilian honor by the Canadian government. He was inducted into the Canadian Songwriter Hall of Fame along with bandmates Lifeson and Lee. On April 18, 2013, Rush was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In personal life, Peart's daughter, 19-year-old Selena Taylor, was killed in a single-car accident on August 10, 1997. His common-law wife of 22 years, Jacqueline Taylor, succumbed to cancer 10 months later. He met photographer Carrie Nuttall in Los Angeles. They married on September 9, 2000. Their daughter Olivia Louise Peart was born 9 years later. After the death of his first daughter, this musician took a long sabbatical to mourn and reflect, and traveled extensively throughout North and Central America on his motorcycle, covering 88,000 kilometers. Sadly, after that trip, Peart died from glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer, on January 7, 2020, in Santa Monica, California. He had been diagnosed 3.5 years earlier, and the illness was a closely guarded secret in Peart's inner circle until his death. His family made the announcement on January 10. Peart's death was widely lamented by fans and fellow musicians alike, who considered it a substantial loss for popular music.